bounding box. And we want to set this so that it's actually a lattice. Again, we want to subdivide this so it's actually a lattice. And we'll set our divisions to 3, 2 and 2. Actually no, again we'll use the copy parameter option. And I'll pop that in there to create an expression. And we want more divisions that we have here, so I'll set that to 8. And that gives us a lot of subdivisions, which is probably too many. Let's set that down to 5. Okay. Now that's our rest lattice as well. So finally we need to deform the lattice. And we'll do that again by using another group sub, just to define the points along the top of the lattice. We only want to define the top points, so I'll just call this top points. And we'll select them using a bounding box. Now if you hover over the viewport and press return, you'll actually activate the bounding box manipulator within the viewport, which actually has standard manipulators. I'll just scale it on X. Okay, now we have just our top points and only our top points selected. And we're going to assign a sine wave to these using a point sub. We'll create a point sub, connect it in, and we'll tell it only to operate on the top points. Again, in Houdini we have to do pretty much everything with expressions. So what we'll do is set up the following expression. $ty is the point initial y translation. We're going to add a sine function to that. And the sine function is going to be based on tx, which is the point x position. As you can see, we haven't really done an awful lot there. You can see, if I press escape, come out of the point sub within the viewport. I'll spin it around the viewport a bit. Now this needs to be multiplied by, say, 360, which is a bit weird. So we'll just divide that by 0.5. We'll just use the ladder here to make some fine adjustments. That's not looking too bad. There we go. Bear in mind, in Houdini, in any expression, you can hover the mouse over the number and allow you to change it using the ladder. As you can see, I can actually scroll left or right to actually increase or decrease the frequency of the sine wave in this case. Finally, we wire this into here, and we'll turn the lattice on, and we'll turn the lattice over into points mode. We'll set it to being a blend model, and we'll drop the radius down to 0.2524. That'll do. Now the deformations are a little bit coarse, so we'll go down to our box sub and we'll increase the divisions along X, which gives us plenty to work with. As you can see, we've got a pretty good deformation going on now. This is where setting things up with expressions makes things a lot easier. Now, as we only want to operate on a couple of groups, we set up 3-point groups, box points 1, 0, 1 and 2. So we'll tell it here to just work on box point 0 and box points 2. And as you can see, the middle box has now stopped being affected. And we could also have done this by right-clicking here and picking objects using this dialog. And there we go. We have our deformed object. So as you can see, it's got a different workflow to Maya, and it's certainly got a different workflow to Max as well. Houdini is much more expression reliant, and obviously you're building a very, very procedural network of nodes, and also relying on expressions to pass data up and down the stream within your network of nodes. But Houdini has a great deal of flexibility, but as you can see, doing quite simple things can actually be quite complex. So in this section of the DVD, we've looked at 3 different approaches to proceduralism, and as you can see, there is actually quite a few different ways to skin a cat. 3ds Max offers a relatively flexible system, and more than anything, a very usable and easy to understand system in the stack. In Maya, you've got more of a node-based workflow where you really have to start using the hypergraph and the connection editor to get any of the basic functionality that you would usually expect in 3ds Max. And in Houdini, as you can see from the outset, you immediately have to start using expressions and connecting nodes together and working at quite a technical level to be able to get even quite basic things done. But on the flip side, Houdini is extremely flexible, and you can do some very, very complex things that it's nigh on impossible to do in Maya and 3ds Max. So as you can see, each has got their own approach to proceduralism, and each offers some good points and some bad points. And each package is probably suited to certain kinds of work, and indeed that's reflected in the industry, with Houdini, for instance, being used almost exclusively for doing very complex special effects work, and that's down to its extremely procedural workflow. Okay, so let's get back on track now and have a look at 3ds Max, and what we're going to have a look at now is the stack in a little bit more detail.